What's up, guys? How's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's having a great week so far. Really excited to be able to do my second live here today. I am at the fam's house, and so because of that, I'm laying on my stomach in bed. So it's a very comfortable spot for me right now. So what I decided, guys, to be able to do today is to be able to do a live specifically about a topic that I know that people are really passionate about right now, and this all has to do, Ryan, what's up, man? That all has to do with interviews, right? This is the time of year that, we're hearing back. We're hearing back from graduate programs, could be master's programs, could be doctoral programs. And I know that a lot of you have a lot of questions that you've been asking me in terms of in the comment sections on different videos. And so because of that, I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to be able to come in, ask whatever questions you guys have got. You guys know that I'm always here for you. And going on vacation on Friday. I'm super excited. We're going down to the DR up until March 4th. So we may do a couple of lives from down there. Bought one of those gimbals, the gimbals where you're kind of holding the thing or whatever, and, you're kind of walking around with it. So that should be great. But before I went and did that, I wanted to be able to make sure, ask way more pertinent questions, but you just never answer them. Okay, great. Well, tell me what your questions are. Go ahead. Sock them to me. What do you got? Shady meets Slim. Hit me to it in terms of more pertinent questions. Go ahead. And everybody else who's here right now, please do feel free to smash that like button and be sure to be able to get those likes up. The more likes that we get, the more engagement that we have, the more on YouTube we end up getting everything. Also, it's not really possible for you to have asked pertinent questions because I've responded basically to 100% of all respectfully asked questions on my channel. So I'm very serious about that. So go ahead, what you got? And everybody else, make sure to ask your questions as well when it comes to anything having to do with graduate school, specifically when it comes to interviews. Sock them to me. What do we got? And it's great to be able to have people just be able to come and spend some time as well to be able to view, because it's something where I think all of us have so much that we can learn. I know I always had guys like huge amount to be able to learn. Okay, Wayne's got a good question. Are the interviews more formal or casual? Great question, Wayne, right? So it really entirely depends on the program. A big piece of it also depends on who are the individuals, right, who are going to actually be doing the interviewing. If it's something, Wayne, where they'll actually tell you who it is, because for some programs it's going to be one person, other programs it's going to be like a wide array of people. So depending on which of those it is, the format's going to be very different. Same thing if you end up having an individual interview, meaning you're the only person being interviewed at once. Sometimes these days, especially because last year, guys, was crazy, and this forthcoming year is going to be crazy again. Why? Because oftentimes standardized tests weren't required, especially here in North America. Because of that, the sheer number of applicants exploded. It got gigantic to the point where for individual supervisors, individual target supervisors in programs, for example, like I'm in clinical psych, right? In psych, we're getting over 125 applications per supervisor, not for the program, per supervisor. That's insane, right? Absolutely crazy. So what ends up happening, Wayne, right, is that in terms of formal or casual, I always want you to be thinking about, be at the level, if you have to go on one or the other perspective, always just assume that you should be more formal, okay, than more casual. And always make sure in terms of your response to the very, Wayne says, oh no, Wayne, what did you do? What did you do? Right? Make sure that you're dressed well. For guys or whatever, a nice button-up shirt and a blazer will work just fine. You don't have to wear a tux or anything like this, or a three-piece suit, even though I do love me a good three-piece suit, right? But that's what I would say, right? Make sure that your background also, like let's say that you're not using, let's say, a Zoom background, right? So for example, like this here is a totally inappropriate background, okay? In terms of doing some kind of an interview, right? It should be a totally blank background of some sort. If you can't seem to actually do that, yes, you definitely should use something like one of those Zoom backgrounds. Don't use something tropical or something stupid like that. The cool thing is that you can actually upload your own photo, right, for kind of what you want. So you can put something that looks like a library behind you or something associated with the target program, right? These are all things that you can do that'll make you look pretty good, right? But make sure that you're appropriately dressed. Ideally, whatever the background is, including if you're using a filter, make sure that that background is a solid color, okay? Make sure that the lighting is even. We don't want you to look like one of those silhouettes or whatever in those like anonymous videos or anything like this, all right? Okay, so that's what we've got. So Wayne, you can tell me, man, if you did something, I want to know what it is. Okay. Next one. Any questions for PsyD programs specifically? In addition, Samaya, to all the questions that I've got. So now, guys, in terms of the interview videos or whatever on the channel are really popular. And so because of that, what I've done is made a ton of them, right? So I think now we've got like 7 or 8, everything from the biggest mistakes to things to never say during these things, to specifically things to ask, let's say, a graduate admissions director or a supervisor. So, for example, that question that people always end up asking at the end, which usually is something along the lines of, so what questions do you have for us, right? Something like that. Be sure to be able to watch those videos, right? And anytime, guys, if you guys have a question and it's already answered in one of those videos, I'm going to tell you what video to watch, okay? To be able to go and watch that one, because it's really important to me that you guys end up getting the answer, right? Trust me on this one. Individual views on the videos, there's like no monetization. We make like $180 a month or so. It's like nothing for the amount of money that goes into making the videos. So you don't have to worry. I'm not trying to get you guys to watch other videos or anything like this. It's just for the interest of time, okay? But in terms of questions for PsyD programs specifically, you should expect, or not you should expect, but certainly, let's say that I was interviewing you, I would easily ask you, why a PsyD program? Why not a clinical psych PhD program? Or why a PsyD program? Why not a MA in counseling? Why not an LCSW program where you're going to get your MSW and then become a licensed clinical social worker? What is it about PsyD programs, right? And PsyD programs, certainly, compared to clinical psych PhD programs, a number of the schools, if you've watched my videos, you know that a lot of the programs are not in super famous schools, right? There are schools that are less well known, right? And so because of that, you should really get ready to answer questions about the school itself. Why is it that that particular PsyD program is the one that you're interested in? Maybe they have an affiliation with a local hospital, local clinic, whatever it happens to be. Maybe they have a sister program in Italy. Whatever it is, I always want you to do 2 things. Okay, Samaya, number 1 is that I want you to mimic back. I want you to mirror back the wording that is on the departmental website. So, for example, I have an absolutely delightful mentee of mine who does one-on-one sessions with me. If you guys ever want me to do and just drill questions with you one at a time, right? And then go through answers specifically for you and your target program, just book a one-on-one session with me. I literally do it every week. And so, we were doing this the other day, so her and I, and that was one of the things that, she was kind of trying to figure out how to be able to answer. These things do take some time. It does take a lot of polish to be able to get these things done well. I think that one of the biggest issues that we've got in the field is misinformation. Misinformation in terms of how many programs you're supposed to be applying to. Misinformation in terms of the way to be able to answer even basic questions, guys, open-ended questions like, tell us a bit about yourself. The answer to tell us a bit about yourself is not, I like long walks on the beach and sipping pina coladas in front of the ocean, right? I know that seems obvious, but some answers that I've gotten to that particular question sound a little bit like that. And remember my rule of thumb, 30 to 45 seconds per answer, right? Try to get it within 3 to 5 sentences and always provide the opportunity for them to ask you follow-up questions. Don't just keep talking, please. If we want to know more as the interviewer, I promise you we'll ask. And if we don't ask you a follow-up question, assume that you did a good job or the information that you provided was sufficient to be able to answer it. Okay, so that's what I would say on that one. Okay, so next one. Okay. So Shady Meets Slim asked the question. Before I get to this one, guys, please do, if you're in here and you haven't smashed the like button already, we get more viewers on the live stream if everybody hits the like button. It's just the thumbs up thing. It'll take you 2 seconds. Okay, so Shady Slim says, should I publish my doctorate as a book or a set of peer-reviewed papers? Okay, do I hold copyrights if I publish my thesis in a university repository? Would journals mind? Oh man, what a great set of questions. That's really good. Okay, we can talk a ton about that. I'll give you the basics, okay? So here's what I would say. So Shady Meets Slim, tell me really quick. I'm going to be looking for it, okay? In the chat window, what's the field? What field are we dealing with here? Right? Is it psychology? Is it history? Is it medieval studies? What are we dealing with? What do we got? Shady, while you're putting that in, Ola is a good. And Ola, I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing it right, and it's not like holla, right? I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's Ola, right? So Ola says, I suspect my advisor is a vampire or a vacuum cleaner because they suck. How can they not suck? Recommendation would be number one, if they're a vampire, obviously garlic would be great. Potentially converting to Christianity would be highly recommended. If they're a vacuum cleaner, if you can somehow get your hands on large scale marbles, possibly, unless they're a Dyson, in which case we're going to have a problem because the amount of suction is unlimited. So that's what I would say. Kidding, of course. Shady Not Slim, are you there, mate? In terms of telling us what field? So while I'm waiting for that, guys, just to be able to give everybody the basic answers, right, in terms of should I publish my doctorate as a book or a set of peer-reviewed papers? If you're in a field of science, social science, or hard science, 100% peer-reviewed papers. Linguistics. Okay, great. 100%, mate. Don't do it as a book, right? Books are wonderful, right? The amount of work that you will need to do to be able to make it into a book. And I know that these things, mate, they can be really, really thick. And sometimes we may even think that they're more conducive to publish as a book, right? Not really, though, right? It will take you a minimum. It is usually estimated of 4 complete rewrites of the thing before you actually will publish it as a book. It's not worth it. At this early stage, mate, of your career, what I need you to do is to be focusing on getting your H index up to between 5 to 8. That is the median across fields of your H index that we're looking for to be able to get you from your entry-level professorship, which like in the US, we call it an assistant professor. European countries, like let's say I was an Oxford guy, so there would be called a lectureship or a senior lecturer, right? We want to get to that next level. In the US, that would mean getting what's called tenure, right? To do that, we need a median H index of 5 to 8. That means that I need you to get 5 to 8 papers, and then I need you to wait a little while and do your best to make sure as many people as possible know that those papers are out. Why? Because it means then they'll cite them, okay? And we need them to get cited. So we need 5 to 8 papers, each of which have been cited 5 to 8 times, okay? That's going to equate to the H index of 5 to 8. That's what I want you to be thinking about right now. When you get an entry-level faculty job that's tenure track in nature, and remember, only 20% of all new faculty positions are tenure track now. People have caught on. Tenure's on its way out. Adjunct, baby. It is the best way to increase the profit margin of these universities. These universities are luxury brands. Harvard could easily quadruple its incoming class and not lose any money. They don't care. They're the Louis Vuitton of universities, okay? They're not going to be increasing that. So don't worry about the book. I'm sure in the future you're going to do books and you're going to do a great job of it, okay? I've done 5 books myself. Trust me, I know the process. We got a YouTube video on it on the channel, okay? But definitely a set of peer-reviewed papers. How many peer-reviewed papers is going to differ. There's all kinds of things to take into consideration on it. I actually built the only video-based course ever on how to be able to translate a master's thesis or a doctoral dissertation into a set of peer-reviewed journal articles, right? And so you can take a look at that or whatever. It's one of the courses or whatever you can get on Publication Academy. So I'm going to put that in here, whatever the URL. It's just publicationacademy.com. There's a bunch of YouTube advice on it. There's a bunch of like blog posts on it and all. Honestly, not comprehensive, not as helpful. Honestly, that's a really good course. And I only made it 5 months ago, so it's super fresh. So I really recommend taking that. Your question about copyrights, okay? If you publish a thesis in a university repository, do everything you can to not put it in a repository. don't do it, right? If they try to force you to do it, right, there are different ways that you can get out of that as well that we can talk about sometime, but that's the basic question, so that's the basic answer. We got a lot of questions. Would journals mind? They will say that they don't, and they do. Don't trust them. Okay, I'm telling you right now. Why do I say that? Because the most famous survey on it said that basically all, when it was de-anonymized, right, they were just like, hey, do you mind? And the editors-in-chief were like, I don't mind. You can publish it in a repository. We don't care. And then when they did a follow-up and they anonymized it, 30% of editors-in-chief said, no, we're not going to publish it. Okay, so that's like 1 in 3. That's bad, okay? So if you can try to not put it in a repository, open science, I am all about it, okay? I love me some open repositories in theory, but in practice, you got to watch out, right? And I don't want that to be the case, but it is the case, okay? So next one. Okay, so Samaya says, what questions should we have ready for PsyD program interviews? Just watch the video. I literally just posted it within the last calendar week. I've been posting a ton recently because I'm going on vacation on Friday. So there's a video on there that's all about what questions to ask a target supervisor during an interview. Those are the questions I want you to ask, okay? It'll be across PsyD, whatever. That's what you should look at, okay? Darnell. Hey, Darnell. How you doing, man? It's good to see you again. Darnell says, do interviewers conduct behavioral interviews to get the true essence of a person? Darnell, it's a good question. So Darnell, do me a favor, because people mean different things by behavioral interviews. Can you give me what you would operationalize as a behavioral interview, right? That would be awesome. All right, let's take a look. Next one. Okay, one second. How do I do this? Perfect. Okay. Anybody has rude comments, their comments are going to be removed from the chat. I don't put up with that bullshit. Okay, next one. Let's do it. And Samaya's interested about that as well. Awesome, Darnell, you're the man. Tell me what you got when you got it. Okay, so Daniel's got, would it be wise to apply for many programs? Okay, Daniel, what's the field, man, that we're dealing with? Let me know in the chat. And so maybe you can have many interviews, increasing your confidence on the interview for the program that you're really interested in. Oh, dude, don't do that, man. Yeah, no. That's a really bad idea, right? My recommendation for clinical psych, or not for clinical psych PhDs, any kind of research-based PhD. Hey, Angel, good to see you, man. Right, for any of these PhD programs, Daniel, right, is 3 to 5 programs. People are out of their mind, okay? And they're saying things like, 10 programs, a minimum of 10. Somebody told me that they got advice from somebody like 20 or more programs. This is illogical, okay? Always remember the 5 biggest lies that you're going to hear that everybody's going to tell you, right? Great GPA, great test scores, 3 phenomenal letters of recommendation, give me research experience, and give me clinical experience, okay? And if you get all 5 of those, you're going to get into programs. That's not true. Everyone knows these things now. They've all figured it out from God knows what source, okay? This makes you totally average, okay? If you've got a 4.0 GPA, you got, 90th percentile GRE scores, 3 phenomenal letters of recommendation, clinical and research experience, you are not ahead, right? And this is really important. And why do I say that? I thought I was ahead too. I was in the same boat, okay? And in my program, the program that I was really lucky, my dream program that I got accepted to, 500 applicants for 1 position. That's insane, right? If that worries you, I'm pleased. Why? Because if you're worried, guys, it means you care. You guys know that I care about you and I care about your success with all of this, right? And I want you to get into your target programs, right? The keys to the castle at the end of the day are personal connections and publications, right? Those are the 2 keys to the castle. Great to see, guys, that we have 21 people. Welcome to everybody who just joined us. If you just joined us, smash that like button, gets us even more engagement. Again, it just helps more people get the free information. So I appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up. Okay, so that's what I would say there. Only apply to programs, Daniel, right, that you would actually go to. If it's something like this about increasing your confidence on the interview for the program you're interested to, every single one of those applications, Daniel, right, will usually cost between like $50 to $200. save your money. Just do a session with me instead and we'll get you confident, okay? Because I don't want you applying to these programs. Why? Because at the end of the day, the personal connections, by the way, this is something, guys, we got to get you started on this as soon as possible. You don't start thinking about grad school and where to go like 6 months or a year before. You got to get, I'm talking freshman year, I'm talking sophomore year, as early as you can when you know the general field and direction you want to go in, guys. That's when we need to do sessions to be able to set up the milestones and get you going. It's not down the line. The most popular time of the year, guys, that people contact me always, that I get a million emails, is always the end of the year, right? Why is it always the end of the year? Because what always ends up happening in terms of it being the end of the year is that people are like, well, I made a personal connection by sending an email to my target supervisor saying that I was interested in being their student. So now they know my name. Guys, that's not a personal connection at all. You sent an email asking if somebody was taking students. That's not a personal connection. Personal connections are built over the course of a minimum of 1 calendar year, right? Of personal contact with the individual. This is really hard during COVID. So, me and the people who work with me, we have found a lot of ways to be able to get around that. Again, when I say people who work with me, I mean mentees. I don't have a company or anything. You only work with me, right? That's really important that we get that personal relationship going now, okay? That's the thing that makes you more of an internal candidate. And being an internal candidate is, the best way to be able to get into grad school, even though it may take you longer than you would have anticipated it taking, okay? And don't do the thing about doing more interviews just to be able to increase the confidence, right? Think about building those personal connections. You can realistically only do that, mate, for 3 to 5 human beings. You can't do that for more people, right? So people say, apply to 20. You're going to spread yourself so thin, you're either going to go nuts, number one, right? Or number two, you're not going to get into any programs at all, 0, because of taking that strategy. And I want you to get into the programs you want, okay? So here we go. Next one question here is from Samaya. Samaya says, how likely do you think your chances are if placed in an alternate post-interview? I don't know what that means. What do you mean by an alternate post-interview? Just let me know. Let's put it this way. If what you're trying to say is that you did an interview and then you get a second round of interviews, freaking great, right? That means that you passed the first bar. Usually people are going to do anywhere between like 8 to 10 interviews, right, for potential students. So I'm not kidding, guys. I don't know if I told you guys this last week, which is insane, but I had a call with a buddy of mine. He is at one of the top clinical psych PhD programs in the country. We've known each other for about 12 years. He's a very dear friend of mine. And he told me that literally he has people in his department and literally they're so perplexed in terms of who to be able to invite for interviews because the applicants are so stellar now. And they have, again, 125 plus applicants per supervisor, not for the program, that what ends up happening is that literally, this is crazy, they'll like pick 6 out of the 8 people. And I'm not joking. He told me that they'll use a random number generator and randomly select like the final 2 slots. Guys, that's crazy, right? But people actually do that, which is wild, okay? So, very good. So Samaya, just to clarify, it said, no offer, kind of a wait list. I was interviewed, but I think someone is ahead of me. So I'm an alternate for that PI. Okay. Let's put it this way, right? Not the end of the world. Doesn't mean that we're out of the running yet, right? Usually what happens is that, again, if somebody gets in, maybe this is their number 1 program. Maybe it's not their number 1 program. And I'm sure Samaya, as you can appreciate, this is the reason why it really sucks for people to take this silly strategy of applying to like 10 programs or 20 programs, because it takes people where that's their number 1 program and it makes them wait and get more and more stressed. It's just unnecessary, right? Pick 3 to 5 programs and put the work in, right, to be able to build those relationships up. Okay, Christy, sorry that this has taken a while, guys, but I want to get to everybody's questions. Okay, Christy says, as an undergraduate student, does it make a big difference between being sole first author and co-first author in a publication? Christy, do not do sole first author. It's totally unnecessary. I was talking about this last week. Thank you for asking the question. It's a good question, Christy, right? The only time that you should try to get sole first authorship where it really matters is when you're going from associate professorship to full professorship, right? And the reason why, I mean, I've known people who are legends in my field who literally got rejected from full professorship because they didn't have any sole authored papers, right? What I want you to do, the way, Christy, I always want you to think about peer-reviewed publishing is that it is an opportunity to build connections. I want you to think about it as social capital or social currency, whatever, right? But that is how I want you to think about it, okay? So that is the name of the game here. Okay, so just try to figure out, especially if you're writing the paper right now, if you can figure out who a potential target supervisor would be, invite them to co-author it on the piece. It's freaking genius, right? That's what you should do. Okay, next one. Okay, I just got with the prof today, and we realized slightly different research interests, how to find the right one. Got it. Just met with a professor today. We realized slightly different research. How do I find the right one? Okay, tell me a little bit more. Would be great. Okay. So you're a freshman undergrad, capable and ready. Good question. Okay. So tell me a little bit more. So what's the field that you want to get into? This professor and your research interests, what was the difference? Right. So put it in the chat here. Okay. And I'm going to get to it. All right. Okay. Amar's got here. Amar says, I just got accepted to a PsyD program. Great. But from a school that's no longer accredited, dude. They said that they're working on getting accreditation back. Do you recommend going for it? No, I do not recommend going for it. The number of horror stories that I have personally heard from people on my phone crying their eyes out from being in that exact situation. Don't do that. Don't do that, right? I say it in the videos, I say it here again, right? If it is pending accreditation, if it has had accreditation taken away, it is a mega, mega, mega high risk. Right? It is high risk. Okay. Don't do it. It is not worth it. Okay. Next one. Great questions, guys. You guys do such a great job with the questions. Okay. Next one. Aloria says, and I hope I got the name right. I apologize, guys, if I ever get a name wrong. It's not intentional. So Aloria says, I work in a university, okay, and my lady boss forces me to write her scientific articles because she's incapable, and she tries to become a university professor at 56 years old. Aloria, I gotta be honest with you, I have been in that situation before where it was also a lady boss, right, trying to get me to write her scientific articles. So Aloria, the question is, why are you still in, it says your lady boss, right? Are you a grad student, right? Are you an undergrad? Can you get out of this lab? What's keeping you in the lab, right? I'm so sorry to hear that you're in that situation. It was like a nightmare for me when that happened to me as well. So I'm really sorry that that's happening to you. But give me some more details in terms of why you're stuck there right now. Okay. So Darnell, I'm hoping you're telling me telling me more about the behavioral thing. So Darnell says, my interviewer did some things that made me keep my composure, kind of knocked me out of my mental zone, but I recovered. Okay. That made you keep your composure, Darnell, or made you lose your composure, right? Knocked you off your mental zone. Can you tell, would you mind, Darnell, can you tell us what happened in the interview, if that's okay? And I just want to make sure that I didn't miss your answer in terms of stuff, behavioral interviews. Yeah, people are not, like, it's not a normal thing, at least, Darnell, like just looking at it in terms of behavioral interviews, it's not normal for somebody to try to, like, I don't know, like throw you off that intensely or anything like this, mate. Like, that's not really, that's weird. I'm sure that there's weird people out there. Trust me. Welcome to academia. Am I right? But that's not normal that people are going to try to, like, F with you, right? So anyway, tell me a bit more. Okay, Wing's got, how early should we start fostering connections with our ideal PI? Wing, as early as possible, as early as you can, right? So for me, it was my sophomore year, right, was my target supervisor. And literally what I ended up doing was I did a summer internship, research internship at Yale. I got the summer internship via a connection that I had made working at a lab at my undergraduate institution, which is a school in the US. It's called Tufts, right? It's in the Northeast. It's in Boston, outside of Boston. And literally was the ex-wife of the guy that I was working for, was a professor at Yale. And that woman, who's a genius and one of the kindest professors I've met in my life at that age, right? One of her BFFs was my target supervisor, right, in grad school. And literally I told her, I said, I need three things. I said, I need a publication, but I don't care the authorship order. Number 10, and by the way, that doesn't matter. You being a first author is freaking baller. I love it, right? But if it's something where you're like, I don't have a first author publication, am I in trouble? No, you're not in trouble. You can be 17th out of 18 authors. What we want you to show us is evidence that you're interested in the peer-reviewed publishing process, interest in the scholar process, right? That's incredibly important. So, okay, very good. Okay. But yeah, the answer is as soon as possible. Okay. Sorry, guys. The chat or whatever like flows up and down on me real fast, so I always end up having to go up a little bit. Okay. So Samaya says no offer kind of way. Oh yeah, you already said that. Okay. Samaya said my interviewer for one area asked what my family would say about what positive and negative quote. That's brutal. Oh, what a great question. Samaya, you can do me a favor and like email me just that question because I'll put it into the next mock interview video I make. God, brutal. What my family would say. How would you answer this the same way as transfer? Okay, you can be a little bit more personal on that one, right? So, and you can always be a little bit of a jokester about the negative, right? So, like, for example, if you were to ask me, like, this is me off the top of my head, right? Positive and negative, right? I think the positive that they would say is that I'm a pretty good-natured guy, and they would say that if you put me into a group of people, that people kind of feel really comfortable about, around me, and that, they enjoy my sense of humor. That's probably what they would say. And negative qualities, probably, if you ask my mom, is that I bite my nails and I'm a picky eater. Those would be my negative qualities, but maybe a good thing because people who bite their nails, usually they're a lot more anal in terms of paying attention to detail, and that could be good for grad school. So you joke a little bit like that. That's what I would say. So, okay. So in terms of, and I'm so sorry, mate, if I'm mispronouncing it. It's unintentional. So I'm going to say Sungju. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, or Seungju. Right. Once you get into a clinical psych, if you want to get into clinical psych and you're an undergraduate, it does not matter if your research interests and their research interests are the same. If they're going to give you an opportunity to get research experience, especially if it can result in a publication, which is very rare, or a conference poster or paper presentation, which is more common, then you should do it. Right. Especially if you don't have any other options on the table right now. You can always transition labs and these sorts of things. Right. For example, like, I was always interested in developmental psych. I worked in like an intelligence lab, and then I worked in an interpersonal perception and communication lab. And then I worked in a behavioral genetics lab. Right. These are the kinds of places that I ended up working. Right. And you end up having to come up with a story. So like if you guys end up, working with me one-on-one when you're writing your personal statements, whether that be now or later on this year, whenever, right? Because I help a lot of people with their personal statements. And I have a very specific way that I'm going to teach you how to be able to structure them, what content to put where. I got a system. It works. I came up with it years ago, tried and true, right? People really struggle with it. That's the reason that I developed it. I've read so many freaking hundreds of these things, right? Welcome to everybody new. We got a whole bunch of people who just joined us. So guys, I want to welcome you to be able to help keep boosting up the engagement. Do me a favor, smash the like button. It's the little thumbs up button. Those of you who've heard me say that twice already, I apologize. I'm sure you understand. So just hit that like button. It'll help. Just, again, we don't make any money off of it. It just is something where more people get to see the video. So I appreciate it. Okay. So yeah, but clinical psych, undergrad especially if you're a freshman, I love that you're interested in research. Freaking great, right? But, hop on the ship that's being offered to you. It's a good thing. You can transition down the line, okay? For psychology, she's not interested in going all in on, oh, mate, you're a freshman and as an undergraduate, don't worry about going all in on anything, right? And other topics don't interest me as much. Trust me, especially, and this is something big, guys, please never forget, it doesn't matter what you're interested in, right? In terms of when you're going to graduate school, right? You're going to have a supervisor. What that supervisor is interested in is what you're going to be doing. If they have a grant project, okay, and the grant project isn't exactly what you're interested in, but it's at a Research One university, right, where they're getting paid from the grant, sorry, you're not going to be able to do the research you want to do. You're working on that damn grant, and maybe you can do a sub-study based on the data collected for that grant. Watch the video that I have on the channel. The video is called Top 5 Doctoral Dissertation Mistakes, and I think number 1 on there, one of the biggest things that I have, and also one of the things to never say in a grad school interview, I think it's in that video as well. Guys, you always lead with the supervisor, especially for research-based doctorates, okay? Or research-based masters. You lead with the supervisor, their research interests, and you make it seem like you are the absolute perfect fit for them in terms of three things, okay? The population that they're researching, the clinical phenomenon they look at, and also the methodology they utilize, okay? You have to establish that goodness of fit. You can't come in and just say, I've got all this great stuff or whatever. Here's the things that I'm interested in looking at. You guys are the program that I want to go to. Will you accept me? That's not how this works. It's not. Okay, I know that that's logical. Trust me on this one. I thought it was logical too. That's not how it works, right? So no, you're going to come across as really arrogant. And like, if I heard somebody say like, oh, you don't seem all in or whatever, like on this, I'm interested in things you're not interested in, pick a different lab, right? But the thing is that if this is the lab where the person actually seems passionate about working with you and can give you opportunities to publish and get conference presentations, especially if you're a freshman, right? So by the end of sophomore year, if you can get something submitted as 17th out of 18 authors, right? Like I was joking about a moment ago, freaking go for it. Go for it. That's a good call, okay? So there you go. Next one. In terms of how do you find the professors with the same background, CVs, look at their CVs, look at their publications the last 1 to 2 years. Okay. Wing says, does working in multiple labs simultaneously look bad to grad? No, Wing, not at all. Not at all. It doesn't show a lack of loyalty or anything like that. You'll be okay. Angel says, can you please come and be my professor at my university? Excellent. Angel, trust me, this, one of the reasons or whatever, like for these sorts of things in terms of like traveling around, it's one of the great joys you'll have if you ever decide, Angel, that you want to, be a professor and all, is usually you get the opportunity to do sabbaticals. And when you do sabbaticals, you don't do them all the time. You do them, less often. But at the same time, one of the really cool things is that you can go. How cool is that, right? And go and get paid to be able to teach at other universities and keep your job at your original one. So if you wanted to go and teach in the Netherlands or something, right? You got all these contacts you've made over the years at conferences, getting drunk at the conference bar. Yeah, that's what happens every single year in pre-COVID and soon to be post-COVID times, right? That's the best thing that you can do, okay? But thank you, I appreciate it. So Anal says, also I've been accepted into a PhD program at UCLA. Congrats. I have an accelerated 1-year MBA degree, and I want to know whether it will boost my career in any way clinically. That's a great question. I'm not a big believer in MBAs. You can tell me where the MBA program is. Why am I not a big believer in MBAs? Because you don't have to do an MBA to be able to be phenomenal at business. Right. But if you get an MBA from something like Wharton or, like these sorts of schools, then it's something where the alumni network will pay for itself. But if it's an MBA at like Liberty University, meaningless degree. You can get, what are they saying? Goodwill Hunting, $5 in late fees at the library. There you go. And you're talking about somebody who, exited his first multi-million-dollar exit when he was 30, right? And have no MBA at all, right? So I know you don't need to have it. Okay. But huge congrats on the PhD, UCLA, fabulous, right? And it depends what the PhD program is in, right? If the PhD program is in something that's clinical in nature, which it seems like it will, right? Will it help you clinically? No, but let's say that you want to start a clinical practice. Of course, having more, business acumen, business education is great. Do I wish as an undergrad that I had taken courses in accounting and finance? Trust me, it would have been a snore fest. Most boring classes I've ever taken. It would have been a great idea. If you guys are an undergrad right now, do me a favor, take a finance and accounting class. Just do it. I know that sounds, this is me literally being nostalgic here, right? But I really wish I'd done that. Would have helped me out a lot. So that's what I'd say about that. Okay. Next one. Boop, 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 boop. Sungju says, I also feel lost with my current PI because I like her so much. Doesn't matter, right? In terms of whether we like people or not is completely arbitrary. I know that it sounds so cold and so harsh, but guys, this is why you watch the channel, right? Is because I'm really blunt, because I care about you, right? It doesn't matter whether you like the person or not at all, right? If working with a different lab is going to produce a better outcome in terms of building effective personal connections, getting more publications, getting conference paper presentations at the right conferences that are especially nationally recognized, right, within your field, and where you can in-person network with other individuals, That's what you need to be doing. It doesn't matter if one person is. I remember I had guys, there was somebody who was just the nicest person you meet in your life. And I still to this day love him to death. He's a big old teddy bear, right? That guy has no connections. That guy's research is not published in any high impact journals. It's just not. And I love him to this day. But working in his lab versus another lab, I would jump ship immediately. Okay. Next one. Amar says, I still have 2 to 3 more interviews coming up. Okay. But what should I do then in the case that I don't get in this year? My bachelor's in bio and I work at pathology lab that I hate. Oh man, terrible. Really trying to get somewhere. Oh man, I feel you. Should I go for grad school in psychology in case I don't get in somewhere? It's a great question, right? If you mean a grad school PhD program, I'd say you're screwed. Because the acceptance rates are lower than medical school. And so if the background's in bio and pathology, you got losers like me who literally were working on getting into grad school when I was still a high school student before I moved to Boston for my undergrad. That's what you're competing against, right? So no, it's not something where, we can just change everything last minute and say, I guess I'll just go get a psych degree. It's not going to happen. Even at a bad school, it's not going to happen because the bad schools are also flooded. And when I say bad, I just mean schools nobody's ever heard of. I don't mean to put down any particular schools. Okay. I think it's fabulous that you have the interviews though, mate. That's wonderful. So many people don't even get interviews. I'm proud of you. You should be very proud of yourself. I think it's wonderful. If you don't get in this year, there's a video that I posted earlier in the last, 2 weeks, at least by the beginning of this year. Okay. And one of the things that I say in that video is that I mention what you should do while you're waiting. While you're waiting, you should assume you'll get rejected everywhere. Why? Because then you'll be emotionally prepared for it and you can keep going. In the meanwhile, right, in terms of bachelor's in bio, you got the interviews coming up, right? What you should do is just start thinking about, again, what kind of labs can you get involved in that are actually going to help you publish, right? Publish is the name of the game, right? And is it nearly impossible to find a lab that'll let you do it? Yes. Is it something that if you go and you talk to the person who runs the lab and you say, I'm looking for a lab that would give me the opportunity to work on a publication, will most of them laugh you out of the room, tell you that you're crazy, and tell you that no lab will ever allow that to happen? Yes, that's what's going to happen. Over and over again, okay? That's okay. Deal with the rejection, go on to the next lab, keep doing it. Eventually you'll find one with a good fit, okay? But you should be expected to be turned down or rejected a ton when people are asking you that. So, okay. Okay, Darnell says I answered in an unusual way. You're welcome, Darnell. Okay, I'm glad that I helped. Okay. But yeah, guys, something like, if it's a hard science versus social science, stuff's crazy, guys, in terms of like acceptance rates and stuff. It's nuts because the number of applicants. Wait until you get to the job market. Job market right now, if you want to be in academia, is redonk because you have about 20% of universities in a country like the US, which has, many, many, many tens of thousands of graduate institutions, or not graduate, post high school, university. That's one thing, institutions of higher education. Tens of thousands of them. And, still we're dealing with a situation, 20% is closing. And all of a sudden the field of all of academia is being flooded with job applications from people who have 20 years of publishing experience. And their university closed. Now they're going against people who are 26 and just got their doctorate. And they're on the job market for the first time with 4 publications. That's a problem, right? And we don't have a solution for it yet. Right. And we won't for a while. So this is going to be a really interesting time in academia. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I do recommend watching. I got a video that I'm really passionate about. It's called Academia is a Blood Sport. Right. And it's kind of funny, but it's also not. Right. So I definitely recommend watching it. It's a good one. OK, so sorry. It's jumping up and down. Okay, so kind of asks, hello, hi there. How hard is it for international students to be accepted into postdocs? It's a great question, right? Depends on the field, depends on where you're trying to get the postdoc, right? The number of applications for any given postdoc is going to vary based on a number of things. Per usual, postdocs are the same thing. Whoever you think your postdoc mentor would be, you need to be building that relationship a minimum, capital M minimum, 1 calendar year before you apply. And there's strategic ways. If you guys ever want to work with me, there's strategic ways to build those relationships, right? You need to do it, right? Especially for the postdoc, right? Postdocs are the things where all of a sudden you're like a junior colleague, right? You're not the graduate student. You're getting now at that level where you're literally collaborating on equal terms with these folks, okay? And they need to know, like, and trust you. Being international is fine. When I had the pleasure of being a postdoc after Oxford, there were other postdocs in other departments who I had the pleasure of working with and with getting to know very well. And they were fabulous. And they were from all sorts of countries. I have friends still from China, from Finland, from Sweden, who I keep in touch with to this very day. I've worked with postdocs from Switzerland, from all over the place, right? They're great. So is it possible? Absolutely. Do you need to build personal connections? 100%. Do you need to focus on publishing a minimum of 3 to 5 publications when you're a grad student? Yes, you do. Unless it's an industry postdoc, that's a whole other can of worms we can get into sometime. Okay? So TJ, hey TJ. TJ says, hi. What are some good questions to ask current grad students as a prospective applicant? I'm applying to MA Psych programs. Okay, so TJ, here's my big question for you, right? So you can type for me, right? And TJ, the basic question, mate, that I've got for you is it something where you know you're going to have the opportunity to talk to a current graduate student or postdoc, like they're going to be in the interview or maybe part of the interview process? The person's going to, like, the grad student is going to be there, right? So can you tell me a little bit about that? Or is it something where you're asking, should I get in touch with one of these graduate students and ask them? Right, questions, and if so, what questions should I ask them? So if you can please tell me which of the two, that would be really helpful, and I'm happy to answer your question. Okay, buddy, so there you go. Okay, Nisira, again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing names, says, does the university in the US allow grad students to change their departments? No, that's totally abnormal, right? Because you're applying to a program, right? So that's really unlikely, like almost impossible. Okay, I've never heard of it in 15 years. Let's put it that way. Does that mean it's impossible? No. But would I say that there's a 98% chance that it won't happen? Yeah. Okay. You can change supervisors, but even that is exceptionally rare, and usually it's not recommended. And why? Because you're burning a huge bridge, right? But sometimes, people like your supervisor, literally, they'll change universities. Unfortunately, I've had colleagues who, like their grad supervisor died in the middle of grad school, right? For whatever reason. And that's super unfortunate, right? So when that does end up happening, it's just something to kind of, keep an eye on, right? But so you can do that, but again, that's dangerous. I had a colleague of mine at Oxford whose supervisor was, horrific, very verbally, very emotionally abusive. And he tried, so as a guy, he tried to change supervisors, and the harassment officer in the department said, you clearly have a case, but if you decide to go ahead with this, we can't protect you from what happens next, meaning that the department will make sure you never get your doctorate if you do this, right? Blood sport, I'm telling you, freaking blood sport, right? So the second part of the question, if somebody gets into a particular program, later decides studying a different oh no, 0% chance. Zero. That is a zero. That's not 98.9. If you apply and you get into a PhD in biology and then you want to do a PhD in chemistry, you got to apply to a PhD in chemistry and get accepted from the jump, right? From scratch, right? Yeah, that's a zero, right? If anybody thinks I'm out of my mind when I say that, feel free to let me know, because you're going to have to provide me concrete evidence. Don't do that. That's not a thing. Okay. And don't apply, please, 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 please. You guys know that I love you. Do not apply to graduate school if you are not sure. Okay. 38% of men, 44% of women at some point during the doctoral process or graduate school process across disciplines get diagnosed with major depression or develop the symptoms to be diagnosed with them, or a clinical anxiety disorder. Okay. That's insane. Okay. And the availability of mental health care services is severely lacking, right? Even though you may have access to some random counselor or something like this, it's not at the level that you're going to need, okay? And this doesn't happen to some people. This happens to virtually everybody, right? In terms of them having a really tough time in grad school. It is the hardest professional thing you will ever do, provided that you're going straight from undergrad to grad, okay? So you need to know that from the jump. I'm always honest with you guys because I care about you, right? So do not apply to a program if you are even thinking that you're not sure that you want to be in that program. You will waste years of your life. Trust me, I'm 34, in my 20s. It just seems like life's going to last forever. All of a sudden, like you're 30, you blink, you're 34. Like this is literally what's happened to me, guys. Right? So there you go. Okay. DJ says, do you think computational science would be a good PhD? DJ, man, I have no idea. It depends. It depends on all sorts of things. It depends on what your career goals are. To be honest with you guys, what I always do, like if you guys book a one-on-one session with me, one of the first things I'm going to ask you, if you're not sure about your career, I work with people every week who they want direction. They want to talk about like, I'm not sure if I want to do this career or not. And can we just talk about it? And can we get some clarity on it? And I'm really good at that, right? At working with people because I have a history, a background as a clinical psychologist, right? So I know the types of questions to ask. So DJ, this is something where one of the first things I always end up asking people, mate, all has to do with the money, right? People hate thinking about that. I hated thinking about it. I thought you'd be a total sellout or something talking about money, right? You need to think about how much money do you need at the end of the day to be able to support you, a partner, and kids? Where do you want to live? What do you want to be able to do? You want to go to Paris once in your lifetime, or you want to go twice a year, right? Do you like eating out a whole bunch? Do you have a budget? If you don't, go to everydollar.com, right? There's an app. It's called Every Dollar, right? It's free. Download it, please. Okay. So please go and get Every Dollar. Okay. And you can work with that. I need you guys to all build a budget. I love you guys, right? And I want you to be financially savvy. I was not financially literate at all, okay, until I was 30 and came into money from selling my company. And I realized just how ignorant I was because I was focused on academia. Like I was focused on academia, I was focused on building my business. But when it came to like investing strategically and all, guys, I did not know what I was doing, okay? And one of the first things I need you guys to do is to build a budget. It's a pain in the ass. It's no fun at all. But I want you guys to track every freaking expense you've got. You can do it sometimes also using an app like Mint, M-I-N-T is another good one. See where every dollar that you are spending is going. See where that money is going. Every peso, every ruble, I don't care where you are, every franc, right? See how where that money is going, okay? If you can measure it, you can manage it. I want you to see how much money you're spending, okay? Why? Because then I want you to imagine these things are going to get larger when you know where you want to live. Do you want to live in a townhouse? Do you want to live in a single family home? How big is it? Does it look like Donald Trump's tower? What does it look like? When you get that information, then we can work it backwards and figure out whether this is something that's even necessary. Do you need a PhD to be able to get the computational science position that you want, to be able to make the kind of money you want, to be able to live the kind of life you want, okay? People very rarely have careers. They most often have jobs, okay? And a job is something that you do because you would not do it unless you were getting paid, okay? So that's that. Good question, though. Fair question. Okay, so Samaya, thank you so much. Samaya is very generous. Says, thank you, Dr. Singh. There's no resource like this channel out there, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Okay, Anal says, MBA from Columbia. Fabulous program. In that case, it was worthwhile getting the MBA. Because of the knowledge you gained? Not really, right? But because of the name of the school? Fab, right? Living in New York? Also fab, right? Because what do they say, right? Everybody needs to live in New York once, but leave before it makes them hard, and live in LA once, but leave before it makes them soft. That's what they say, right? So I love that you lived in New York City. It's a delightful city. My sister used to live there. I have tons of family there. My mom was actually born on Long Island, and my dad went to SUNY Stony Brook. Yeah, but what that's going to do for you is give you the network, which is great, right? And if you want to come up with a company based on your field of interest, then yeah, maybe that'll help. I mean, it depends. Do you want to raise money or you want to bootstrap the sucker, right? Both companies that I've built and scaled, right, have been bootstrapped companies. I've never had a Series A. I've never had seed capital or anything like that. I've never built anything up like that because I'm a control freak and I like to have total control over things, right? And that's just me. Right. So I love lean startups. I love agile sprints. I love that kind of world, that startup world. Right. So I think it's great. Congratulations. Okay. Anal says, are PsyD degrees as employable and credible as PhD programs? Honest answer, no, they're not. They're not. They'll try to make it seem like it is. It's a marketing tactic. It is. And the average person comes out with 6 figures in debt. And that's unfortunate. Right. But there's some reasons to do PsyD programs, which we can talk about at some stage, but just watch my videos on them, please, because I've literally gone into crazy detail on it. Also, if I love both equally as much, which one should I go for? PhD program, clinical psych PhD program. I've been accepted in Palo Alto, which is a PsyD program. I love that program. I love that program because they have the affiliation with Stanford, and Zimbardo used to teach there, and Bandura used to teach there, which is great. No joke. I once got so nervous at the age of 17 when I met when I met Albert Bandera that I told him that we should start. This is a true story. I told him that we should start a gang called the Bobos, which if you guys know the Bobo doll study, what the hell was I thinking? I blanked. I dissociated. It was crazy. I was so nervous. Ridiculous. Okay, great. Sanju, God, thank you. The truth. Always appreciate it. 100%, man. 100%. This is the worst thing that people can do, guys. It's the worst thing people can do is just not be straightforward, and especially straightforward from like a very loving place, right? It's really important. I always get so disappointed, guys. Like how few folks there are out there, like none. That's why I made the channel, right? And this is why I think we're growing so freaking fast, right? Is because of that. We're scheduled. We should have over 11,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which is ridiculous to me. Because I made a joke, one of the first videos, that this would never be the kind of channel that would have 10,000 subscribers. So I need to go back and call myself an idiot, right? So, and it's because of you guys. You're the ones, right? So I really appreciate you. Anal, you're very generous. Anal says, you're amazing, best channel ever. Also, I was able to reference you in one of my interviews. Oh, dude, sweet. That's awesome. Thank you. Sweet. Okay. Wang says, is it appropriate to email and ask a PI about the detailed material they've used in one of the methods they developed? Yeah, sure. Or will they only answer if their name is added to our paper? Oh, no, Wang, you can ask them. You can add. They're not going to do that. If they do, that's really odd. If though, right, in terms of detailed material, if it's something where you're like, they developed a new survey and they're like, hey, can I get your survey, right? It's actually a good call for you to build the social currency by legit just reaching out and be like, hey, I can offer you co-authorship on the piece if we can get a version of the survey to be able to utilize in ours. Number one, it'll save you a ton of time. Number two, if they've published it in the past, then they're probably a thought leader in that area, especially if they were the senior author on the piece or the first author on the piece, so long as they're not a grad student when they published it. Okay, that's my recommendation. Good question. Okay. Is it considered fostering connection? Was your follow-up? Yes, 100%. Guys, this is all relationships. Okay. Adriana says, I recently graduated with a biology, okay, I'm assuming biology degree. I'm not sure. Okay. I have a lot of volunteer hours. Good, I'm so glad. And a couple of these jobs, so my resume isn't empty, but I don't have lab or research experience. Is it possible for me to get in a lab? Absolutely. What I want you to do, Adriana, is I want you to find your dream doctoral program or master's program, and I want you to find your dream supervisor. And remember, the way you're going to do it is, number one, you're going to figure out your Adriana's dream population you want to deal with, right? Or sample if it's not something human, right? It could be fish, whatever. Right? Come up with your, clinical phenomenon, or just any phenomenon you want to look at. Something about fish, maybe. Again, I don't know. It's a fishy day. And the third one being your method of choice, right? It could be an apparatus, it could be a piece of equipment, or it could be a statistical methodology, or research design, whatever it is, okay? And then once you have that, I want you to go deep into the research literature. And I want you guys to find anything that's in there, right, that actually overlaps with those three things, okay? That's what I want you to do. And once you've done that, right, you will start to identify individuals who have published in the last 1 to 3 years in those areas, find out if they are taking students, okay, for their program, right? Actually, before you do that, see if you can volunteer in their lab. And maybe you live in San Francisco, and maybe they live in Denver, and maybe you'll have to move to Denver. I love me some Denver. Maybe you'll have to move to a place where there's more cows than human beings. But the question is, how badly do you want it? That's the question, right? I'm not saying that you're going to suffer, okay? But I'm saying that you are going to be in a scenario where the normal human would experience suffering. That is valid. That is true, right? People won't say that at the beginning of the doctorate. I can't tell you guys the number of times people have written to me their first year of the doctorate, and they're just like, Dr. Singh, you overplayed the whole thing. And then they'll like call me like several years later, like 40 pounds heavier, and they haven't shaved in like all 4 of those years. And they were like, you were right, right? So it is what it is. Trust me on this one. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so yes, it is possible for you to get in a lab, okay, and it may take a little bit more work, but the good news is you can become an internal candidate, okay, by finding the target person that you really want to work with, okay, and trying to get in there. So, Charles, what's up, man? All right, Charles says, my PI didn't receive tenure, and is now at a new institution. It actually worked out, though. Oh, good, because I'm not giving guest lectures on that college, so sometimes they can work out. Friggin' A, this is great. Yeah, hey, sometimes, the universe works in mysterious ways, am I right? Yeah, hey, sometimes somebody not getting tenured and actually going to a different institution, first of all, bless them, because how rare is it to immediately get into another institution? I've got a buddy of mine who's like my brother, and he didn't get tenure after 5 years, which in the U.S. is usually the standard tenure clock. Whoa. Right. And after that ended up happening, he literally did not have another tenure track position for over 10 years. Legit. Right. Okay. So, guys, I've got no more questions, right? Because I've only got like 15 more minutes here. So, my Mishka Daria is being very loving and saying, Dr. Singh, thank you for being awesome. Thank you, Mishka, for being exactly who you are. Let's see. Okay, TJ Scott, after having an info interview with him, my prospective supervisor connected me to 2 of his graduate students currently working in his lab. So you'll be having a video conference with that. Okay, TJ, thank you for telling me. So TJ, here's what I want to tell you. First, I'm going to set you aside, TJ, right, for one sentence, and that sentence is, guys, never contact a doctoral student, a master's student, any student or any postdoc of a target supervisor to ask them whether or not that supervisor is good to work with. It will always get back to the target supervisor, and it will make you look terrible. Don't do it. Promise me. Okay? No, we're not doing that. Okay? Now, TJ, I'm back to you, man. Okay. So fantastic, right? So the good news is connected you to 2 grad students. TJ, do me a favor when we're done with this. Shoot me an email. I'm going to put my email address in here. Also, if anybody wants to book a session, obviously I'd love to work with you. So just email me or whatever. My rates are at this website, right? So you can contact me, book a session for all sorts of stuff. Okay, but email me after, TJ, and just send me that question, because I'll make a video on it too. So I really appreciate you asking that question, because it's a good one and other people will benefit from it, okay? Okay, here's the deal there. In terms of, prospective supervisor connected to his grad students. Okay, first of all, it's a good sign, right? Obviously. The second is that it suggests that you may be working more with that target supervisor's graduate students or postdocs than you work with them themselves, right? Which can be a good thing or a bad thing. Usually it's not the best thing. You'd rather work with a target supervisor, am I right? That's probably why you got in touch with them in the first place. In terms of what to ask them, right? Do not ask like, how is it working with, Professor Johnson? Don't ask that question straight up. I want you to dance around it like you're a freaking ballerina, TJ, okay? I want you to put that proverbial tutu on, and I want you to dance on those tiptoes, okay? And the way we're going to do it is by asking, first of all, questions about their background, right? Never make it like an interrogation. So here we want to ask things along the lines of, in terms of your guys' background, did you guys go straight from undergraduate to the doctorate? Or did you guys do a master's in between? Something like that is never bad. You can say, what's your favorite part of working in the lab, right? Or what's your favorite part of living in this area? And I'm sure that it was a big transition in terms of, from where you did undergrad to graduate school. What were you most surprised by in terms of the graduate experience relative to undergrad? These are all good questions to be able to ask off the top of my head, but don't say something, TJ, off the top. Don't be like, I hear, Dr. Johnson's a bit of a dick. Right? Okay. Can you tell me why? Right. So I know you wouldn't do that, TJ, but still. Okay. Angel says, what are the benefits of going to grad school outside the USA? I have a whole video on it, Angel. So if you search the channel, there are things about going to grad school internationally. There's one video. It's a viewer response video that I built on that. Okay. To be able to watch that. Okay. Is it worth interviewing in a school that isn't currently accredited? No, under no circumstances. Please do not do it. I will grab this computer and I will shake it. I will shake it until you feel it, okay? Like a Polaroid picture, I will shake it so that you don't do that, okay? Stephanie, I love you. Don't do it, okay? Sukaina, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. Sukaina says, thank you. Glad you brought up the industrial postdoc because I'm in a PhD program that's fully funded by the industry. Hey, cool. And I read that having a grant helps to land a postdoc. Is that true? Oh, yeah, 100%, okay? So kind of anytime getting a grant for anything is going to help you. I promise you. Okay. Academia is an industry, right? And grant money is the coin of the realm along with perceived respect. Academia is weird because it doesn't even matter if people actually respect you. All it matters is if you feel respected. And that is stupid, right? And that is exactly how the field works. Okay. This is why ego stroking and these sorts of things works very effectively in academia in terms of opening doors and these sorts of things. Really silly, I know, right? So it is what it is. Okay, but yes, long and short, we're over time, so I'll just say yes. Adriana, it's a pleasure, not a problem. Analysis is being part of a PhD program. Last question, guys, I'll answer is Django's, and then I'll be done. Analysis is being part of a PhD program and moving across the country from Manhattan to LA a good decision. If you just got married and now are pregnant with triplets, or should I wait? No. That's the question of the night. This is a great question. Okay. You're pregnant with triplets. Obviously, you can't fly if it's the third trimester usually, right? So you may have to drive, in which case, make sure, I don't know if you're pregnant or somebody else is pregnant, but whoever's not pregnant, make them drive, okay? The entire way. I don't want you and, Jack, Jill, and Joe in there, right? Bouncing around as you're hitting potholes, okay? So, but is being part of a PhD program a good decision? I'm going to be honest with you. I think it is. I think it's a great first trimester. It's you. Okay, great. Hey, I'm just you never know in this day and age, so I'm just making sure. Okay, first trimester, you're fine. Yeah, I would say it's worth it. I got to be honest with you now. I would recommend going out there as soon as you can, or have your partner go out there as soon as they can and just get everything settled, okay? I don't want you to be stressed out. You know as well as I do how stress hormones are going to impact the baby, okay? I want you to stay as chill as you can. I want you to get over there and just begin this practice of building your life up, okay? You're going to do great. Obviously, PhD program is going to be really stressful. I once asked my father when you would be ready to be a father, and my father told me when the condom breaks. No joke. That's what he said. And then I had a series of follow-up questions about my conception, which is not true, but I still think it's funny, right? And he did actually say that. And my dad's not the type to say something like that. That's why it's so funny, right? Oh, yeah, Lord Rice says, oh my goodness, yeah, no, for real, am I right? But that's the thing, right? I don't want you to be stressed out with these things, okay? I want you to try to invest in something. There's a device called a Muse, M-U-S-E. I want you to buy a Muse S. And I want you to do biofeedback for 30 minutes twice a day, and all, okay? And I just want you to, get used to or whatever to stress reduction, because I want you to build as many protective factors for yourself as you can. Depending on the PhD, these things can be nearly impossible to get into. Obviously, you could wait another few years and get in. At the end of the day, there is no such thing in this life as right decisions and wrong decisions. There are trade-offs and there are choices, and you never know. You may have to drop out of the doctoral program, and I'm sure Jack, Jill, and Joe down there are going to really appreciate having Mama Bear there, okay, and the ability to be able to pay close attention to them, okay? I'm sorry that I don't have any more clarity than that, right? But that's what I would say. Okay, final question of the night, guys. Then I got a session in 5 minutes. What if PI's grant that you were interested in just expired? So first of all, oh shit, right? Is the number one, come on, we're all thinking it, right? Is the number one thing, okay? So this is something, Django, where word of caution to everybody else, right? If you're interested in working on a particular grant, I want you to take a look at your target supervisor's grants in their CV or their resume. It should almost always say when it's going to expire, okay? If it's expiring within the next 12 months, you will not be working on that grant. Or if you do, you are going to be the whipping child of the people working on that grant already, and probably you will not end up getting any help. Or not any help, any publications out of it or anything like that. It's not a great situation for you. Okay. So at the end of the day, you will end up on another grant, right? Doing a different project that you probably weren't as passionate about. Please, Django, always remember that your most seminal work is not going to be done during grad school, okay? I want you doing C+ work. I want you to get the letters after your name, and I want you to get the hell out of there. I want you to minimize the amount of trauma that you get. I want you to minimize the likelihood, like 1/3 to 1/2 of people have, of getting a diagnosable mental illness when you're there, okay? It's a major stressor. If you had dietetic stress model, am I right? If you have the biological predisposition, you have this massive environmental stressor in the form of grad school. Genes are like light switches. Those light switches are turning on, baby. And when they turn on, you're going to start manifesting signs and symptoms of mental illness, okay? I don't want that for you. Okay, so do what you got to do, get through the experience. And that's what I've got. Okay, guys, that's what I've got for you today. Please do be sure. You guys know I love you. My information, I'm going to put it right here into the chat right now. That's my official website where you can find rates and these sorts of things to be able to work with me one-on-one. Guys, I do so many freaking consultations a week, and it is the freaking joy of my life. Okay? So please do make sure, book a session. We can talk about anything that you like. We can work on any of your materials. We can do practice interviews. If you're really afraid about interview stuff, I can get you cool, calm, and collected, okay? So that's the one. This is my email address here, because on the website, it does show that there's no current sessions that are available, and this is because from February 19th, 2 days from now, until March 4th, I am going to be on a beach with Mishka Bear, relaxing and doing nothing, okay? You can feel free to bother me. I will not respond to you, right? But doesn't mean I don't love you, okay? I'll try to possibly do one live stream when Mishka's sketching or something like that, okay? So that's what we'll do right now. Love and appreciate you guys. Be sure to smash that like button if you haven't already, because after this is done, it'll get out to more people, and we're doing this for free to be able to have a good time together. So appreciate you guys. Lots of love, and I will talk to you soon. All right? Bye-bye.